A.I.L.A is a first-person psychological horror game developed by Pulsatrix Studios and published by Fireshine Games. The game was developed by a small Brazilian independent indie studio, counting with professional voice actors for Brazilian, Portuguese, and English, also available in German, French, Spanish, simplified Chinese, Korean, Russian, and Japanese languages, translations for interface and subtitles. It was directed by Max A.I.L.A, a very famous Brazilian gaming content creator that is one of the biggest creators for the horror-related gaming niche. Its development started back in the ending of 2022 and it was released on 25 November 2025 to Windows devices, PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series XS. The plot is the strongest part of the game. For horror-oriented games, plot is a fundamental element, and even the best combat mechanics aren't enough to make for a bad plot or, even worse, a bad ending. You play as Samuel, a game tester that receives new AI-powered gaming console capable of creating virtual realities and games based on the user's experiences, feelings, emotions, and activities. The core narrative is a junction of different narratives that are intertwined and glued together, forming the central plot. The game delivers a great experience in terms of perception of what's real, what's imagination, and what's really going on. Without giving any spoilers, it has a great plot twist and a lot of details that completely change your perception of the main character's history. There are 7 different endings that are shaped by your decisions and actions during your gameplay. To me, the game conclusion was great and I didn't feel any feeling of "so that's it?" Combat mechanics. This is the weakest point in terms of gameplay. Combat can be very clumsy sometimes, with enemies' AI having issues to navigate through scenarios, like getting stuck in some scenario element, for example. Between guns and melee weapons, the first option is better, as you can have a better feeling while handling guns and shooting at enemies, while there's a lack of impact or a better feeling when you attack enemies with most melee weapons. To me, the only exception for this was using the hammer during the farm stage. Boss fights aren't that challenging either, and that was quite disappointing. Except for the parade and the last boss fights, you don't really have the feeling that you're facing great danger, and boss's AI isn't much better than those from common foes. Also, game don't pause while you access your inventory, so whenever you need to access an item or do anything while fighting, this can be a big issue if you're more used to games that allow pausing while you access your inventory. For players that are more used to play multiplayer PvP or PvE games in which there's no pause, it will not be a big deal. Nevertheless, enemies can corner you when even avoid your attacks, so unless you're really good at playing FPS games, you're going to miss some point-blank shots. Puzzles are an integral and core element for games like these, and this point is well executed by A.I.L.A developers. Puzzles are challenging enough to defy you, but aren't too hard to make you frustrated. You need to explore the environment to discover hints, use tools, and defeat foes to solve some puzzles. There are levels that are more action-oriented and others that are more puzzle-solving-oriented, like the first 2 simulations, so it's a good mixture between action and puzzle solving. Game layout is clean and easy to use. You have no issue while navigating through menus, inventories, and screens in general. Mission objectives are displayed on the left side of your screen and they're always visible whenever you press the inventory button. Game options are easy to access to and you're not going to face any big issue while traveling through the game layout and UI. A.I.L.A can be finished in a time frame of between 6 to 9 hours of gameplay. Some players can get stuck trying to solve some puzzles, and some tasks aren't that straightforward. But maps aren't that big either, and some basic exploration is enough to solve most of them. For casual players, it would be better to divide the gameplay into different days, but it's possible to finish the game with one single gameplay session if you want to. Scenario exploration. There's a lot of incentive to explore your surroundings. You can find items like ammo, health recovery, and even weapons by exploring the scenario, and many of these resources are placed in places that aren't so obvious. There are collectibles too, that you can gather and that are displayed in the main chair's bedroom. So the game rewards your exploration and gives you the motivation to explore it, instead of pushing you to follow a specific way, although it's not an open world game. If you want a good horror game with a good plot, A.I.L.A is a good option for you. It has its flaws, some minor bugs or glitches, but it's an independent indie game with a lot of identity and a level of care, professionalism and attention that's diminishing in a AAA industry. An independent game that hires professional voice actors instead resorting to AI-generated voices and subtitles that actually creates assets and environments instead resorting to free reused assets is something that deserves recognition and respect. And although you shouldn't turn a blind eye to the game's flaws, they will surely not going to hamper your experience. I give it a solid 8 out of 10 cups of coffee.